What's up, guys? Another new week, another new content standard. Last week we finished up 8.1.3, talking about a lot of ideas of the pre-American Revolution. This week we're moving to 8.1.4, content standard A through D. This series of videos, I'm going to be talking about things like natural rights, social contract theory, equality, inalienable rights, consent of the governed, Thomas Jefferson, and the Committee of Five, and how they all relate to the actual Declaration of Independence. So let's get started. The big goal for this particular week is we want to be able to determine the central ideas and the grievances expressed in the Declaration of Independence and their intellectual origins. So what we mean by that is basically we want to know the big reasons why the colonists actually declared independence and what they said in the Declaration of Independence, and also when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, where did those ideas come from? Because they had to come from somewhere. So we'll be talking about that this week. So Content Standard 8.1.4a was our target for the first day this week, and we wanted to understand John Locke's theory of natural rights and how it's expressed in the Declaration of Independence. And honestly, it's pretty easy. But first, let's talk about this John Locke guy. So John Locke, he's a pretty handsome fellow. You know, if you look at the nose, it's bigger than mine, if you know me. But still, he's one of the most famous people when it comes to Enlightenment thinkers. And John Locke, just a few things about him. John Locke was born in England in 1632. He was a philosopher. He influenced future leaders like Thomas Jefferson, among other founding fathers that we had. But Thomas Jefferson specifically is a huge one we're going to be talking about. Many of his ideas, especially his idea of natural rights, is in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution as well. So, John Locke realistically was very influential, especially in the second part of the Declaration of Independence, which we'll talk about later this week, in the idea of natural rights. So what are natural rights? Well, natural rights are pretty much the rights to life, liberty, and property. So when we say natural rights, those are the first things that should come up when you think about John Locke. The right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to property. Life, the fact that people want to live and are willing to fight to survive. Okay, so most of the time, as humans, we are willing to fight to survive. We're faced with a situation that we can either choose to live or choose to die. There's something inside of us that pushes us toward the idea of, oh yeah, I don't really want to die. So it pushes us towards life. And because John Locke saw that and understood that, he believed that life was one of the natural rights that was afforded to the people and everyone that should be in a nation. The second idea of liberty, he said that it was so people wanted to be as free. I don't know about you. Most of you that are viewing this video, you are going to be students. And some of the things that make your life, I guess, complicated as they could be with your relationships and everything, are going to be people that limit your freedoms or limit your ability to make your own decisions. It would be maybe your parents, maybe the school, maybe the government. Okay, it may be me on a daily basis. But, you know, that's my job. So, natural rights, you got life and liberty. John Locke believed that people should be free as possible to make their own decisions, as well as property. This represents the fact that people want to own things that help them survive, such as land, food, and tools. Innately, we need a lot of different things to survive, like, food, because food's good, and water, because we need it to live. We need a place to live, otherwise we're going to be living outside in the elements, maybe really hot, maybe really rainy, maybe really cold. But as humans, we need some place to live. And we need things to help us live. So the property that we have, most people think of their house when they think of property. But property is a step past that. Property is everything that you have, everything that you own. It could be the pencil in your hand, because I know you're taking notes on this. It could be the clothes on your back, and it can also be your home. It can be your car. It can be anything. Humans want property, and they deserve the right to have property. So the natural right of property is also something within natural rights that John Locke definitely pushed forward in his idea. So natural rights, it's a huge deal. John Locke's idea, he believed that all humans should have the rights to life, liberty, and property. So let's review this really quick. Content Standard 8.1.4a. We wanted to understand John Locke's theory of natural rights and how it's expressed in the Declaration of Independence. So you guys understand what natural rights is. Now, as far as it being expressed in the Declaration of Independence, I mean, the idea that you want to live and live your life freely with being able to make your own decisions and that you can own things, that's really interwoven into our society, and it's interwoven into our Declaration of Independence, it's interwoven into our Constitution, and realistically, the way we live each day, we kind of take natural rights for granted because we don't think about the fact that life and being free and having and owning things, that those are rights, okay? Those aren't just options. They're rights that we have. Not everybody has them, and John Locke decided that every human should have them. So when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, when he was looking at John Locke's writings, he decided that the idea of natural rights definitely needs to be in our Constitution because people deserve life, liberty, and property, and as well in our Declaration of Independence. So hopefully that helps you to understand natural rights a little bit more. If you have any questions, let me know. Something else we talked about the next day, we talked about Content Standard 8.1.4b. This is our target on Tuesday this week. Now, it was to understand social contract theory and how it's expressed within the Declaration of Independence. And most classes that I taught this to, most people actually know what social contract theory is. You just don't know that it's called social contract theory. So they'll see a few slides that I actually did with my classes, and that's okay. They're not going to really pertain to this presentation. So social contract theory is something that was come up with by several different Enlightenment thinkers. Okay, John Locke was the version of social contract theory that our founding fathers decided to go with. So social contract theory, we're going to say it came up with by John Locke. It's used in the Declaration of Independence, and it comes from his book, The Second Treatise on Government. So to understand social contract theory, we had to understand something called state of nature. And these were some of the questions that I posed to my classes during each class. And they had done a worksheet before. Hopefully, if you're viewing this, you've done that worksheet, and it talked about what state of nature was. Well, state of nature is basically like the Hunger Games or the Purge, okay? State of nature is where all these humans are put into an area and someone just says, live, go crazy. There's no rules, no restrictions, no government. There's nothing that you can't do. So you do have more freedoms than you normally do under state of nature because there are no rules. There is no one telling you what to do and what not to do. So I asked my other classes the question, so I know that we live in the United States and we have freedom, and we love the fact that we have freedom. There's a lot of countries in the world that have freedom. But is there a point where there is too much freedom? And the answer to that is yes, because too much freedom means that you have no rules or restrictions, and where there's no rules and restrictions, that's state of nature. Okay? That's craziness. That's dysfunction. That's where people can do anything they want with no restrictions. That means someone can walk up and murder somebody and no one's going to care. It's state of nature. It's just the normal way that things would go if there were no rules. So with that in mind, we're going to move forward and change gears to the idea of, we're going to move forward to the idea of a contract. So what is a contract? You guys have heard that word before. Google says that a contract is a written or a spoken agreement, especially one concerning employment, sales, tenancy, which is basically just renting a house, that is intended to be enforced by law. You guys know that you sign a contract. Okay? The contract has words on it, but a contract actually has rules that you're supposed to abide by. It says, I will pay my rent by this day every month. I will make sure that I don't destroy the carpet. I will make sure that I have no pets in my apartment. And you would sign that, and you would agree to those ideas. And if you are in breach of contract, that means you've broken one of those rules. So, with my classes, I had them take a few minutes, and I had them try to hypothesize what social contract theory was, using their idea of they know what social means, they know what contracts are, they understand state of nature, they understand government, they understand all of these different ideas. But in the end, social contract theory is very simple. It's an agreement. So the social contract theory is an agreement between the people of a nation and that nation's government, where the people agree to give up some of their rights if the government agrees to protect everyone's rights. So in other words, people are giving up some of their rights. Okay? We talked earlier about state of nature and how if you are in state of nature, you have every right. You can do anything you want. There's no rules and restrictions, but that's not necessarily a good thing. So social contract theory has people giving up some of those rights that would put them in state of nature. They're being put inside of boundaries by the government, and the government's saying, if you give us these if you give us the ability to put boundaries on your life, to help you and not hurt you, we will protect the rights that you still have. You guys know these rights as the right to bear arms, the right to free speech, all the ones that are listed in our Constitution. Those are the rights that we're talking about. So social contract theory, it's just an agreement between the people of a nation and the government of a nation where the people give up some of their rights so the government can protect the ones that they still have. Pretty simple. So in the end, we wanted you to understand social contract theory and how it's expressed within the Declaration of Independence. Honestly, how it's expressed in the Declaration of Independence, if social contract theory is an agreement between the people and the government, then when the colonists were dealing with the king, they weren't really in agreement about a lot of things that were going on. The king was just saying, I'm going to tax you and it's going to happen. He's not giving them the option. He's not saying, I think you could pay these taxes, or I hope that you pay these taxes. He's saying, you will pay these taxes or you're going to jail. Okay? There was no agreement there. And the founding fathers had experienced this life, and they wanted to change it when we got into our new nation. So social contract theory from John Locke was something that Thomas Jefferson put in the Declaration of Independence, so we would be reliant on government, but the government would also be reliant on the people. Okay? Not so that the people are just reliant on the government, but that the government was reliant on the people. Okay? It's kind of a give and take there. So hopefully social contract theory is a little bit easier to understand, the idea that the people give up some of their rights so the government can protect the rest of the rights that they have. Hopefully, if you guys have any questions, you let me know. I know social contract theory can be a little bit confusing, and I understand that, so that's okay. Natural rights is a little bit easier, but John Locke came up with both of them. Huge Enlightenment thinker. Okay? So in the end, you guys need to let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.